Bill, thank you so much for joining me. I know you're in D.C. because you're talking to Congress about how to use Russian assets to help finance Ukraine's defense. How would that work?
Well, basically, we have a situation where after the war began, the West has frozen $350 billion of Russian central bank reserves. And we also know that Russia has now caused more than $1 trillion of damage in Ukraine. And so the obvious thing to do is to take that money that's frozen and give it to the Ukrainians for their defense and reconstruction. It seems both morally correct, financially correct, and politically correct.
I don't disagree. It seems obvious. Then what's holding us back from doing that? What are they telling you on the Hill?
Well, what we have is sort of weird bureaucratic caution, and people are saying, well, you know, we don't want to be doing anything that would escalate. We don't want to do anything that would make us look bad. But it seems to me that if Putin is ready to kill all these innocent Ukrainians and do all this other terrible stuff, then we should not be so tiptoeing around him. And I don't think there's any objection on Capitol Hill. Every senator and congressman that I know supports the idea, but the hesitation is in the administration. The Biden administration is cautious, maybe overly cautious in this area, and so the key now is to just push this over the line.
Can you explain this one to me? Russia announced that it is pulling out of a deal that allowed for grain from Ukraine to be exported to the rest of the world. And as we've all realized in the last few years, Ukraine is a major source of grain for the world. Why is Russia doing this now?
Well, so Putin is just using his whole modus operandi in all these situations is just to cause trouble wherever he can, use whatever leverage he has. And so he blows up a dam, causes an environmental disaster. Now he's using this grain thing to basically cause the price of wheat and other things to go up in Africa. I mean, like in the old days when he was bombing Syria to create refugees, that's what this new thing is about. By creating a food hunger crisis in Africa, he's hoping that refugees will swarm Europe, and perhaps that will, create more far-right parties to come into power, which will be supportive of him. It's kind of like he just likes to mess stuff up and to see where the chips fall. I don't think he has any specific goal here other than just to create chaos, which is what he does and how he operates.
He sure does. There's another topic I am dying to cover with you. That revolt from a few weeks ago, the mini coup led by the Wagner Group. What do you think actually happened there, how it ended, your whole assessment of it?
Well, so the first thing I would say is that's probably the single most damaging thing that's happened to Putin since he came to power. His whole thing, the way he stays into power, is by projecting strength, by showing that he's the most brutal, terrifying dictator. And all of a sudden, you've got somebody who's more brutal, more terrifying, who basically rolls through all these Russian cities. They put flowers on Prigozhin's tanks and take selfies with him. And what it did was pop this myth, pop the bubble that Putin is the strong man. And that's a very hard thing to recover from. Now, why didn't Prigozhin make it all the way? Well, you can't take over a country with a country of 141 million people with 8,000 troops. He needed people in Moscow who were going to go along with him. And to the extent that he thought he had them, they probably got cold feet when he got close to Moscow. But what I would say is that this has opened up a terrible Pandora's box for Putin. He has now shown his weakness in a country where they despise weakness. And even if Prigozhin didn't succeed, I think others will look at this and say, maybe there's a chance for me. And so I think that the probability that something bad happens to Putin in the future has increased exponentially because of this whole Wagner rebellion.
So let's stay there. So what happens next? If you think the probability that somebody else goes after him is high, what's going on in Putin's mind? As you just said, he is obsessed with strength, always has been, and this is the weakest he's ever looked.
Well, that's exactly right. And so he's in this terrible position where the normal thing that a dictator will do if somebody has challenged them is to go on an almighty purge and just take out everybody and everything that stands in his way. And so the normal thing you would have expected here was that he would arrest Prigozhin, bring him to Red Square, set up a guillotine, put his head in the chopping block, and cut it off. That's the kind of thing a dictator would do. But instead, they didn't do that. They had like meetings with Prigozhin at the Kremlin. He's been allowed to go free. If he's not the guy who's purged 50,000 disloyal lieutenants, then everybody is going to say, huh, you know, maybe there's a chance that I could get up there and be the strongman, be the dictator, be the guy who gets all the money. And there's a big incentive for other people to do that.
Bill Browder, always good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight and sharing your expertise.
Thank you.